last episode of Thrust and Thunder, we removed the rust, applied the Eastwood rust converter and chassis saver onto the parts, and then applied the Eastwood rust encapsulator onto the hardware, using a brush to remove the excess from the threads. The rust converter did a fantastic job of leaving behind a paintable coating such as above, which is a perfect primer to paint on top of using our chassis saver paint. On this episode, we are going to reinstall all of our parts, service our bearings, and reinstall the wheel hub to include our Centromatic wheel balancer back onto the camper itself. So let's go ahead and get started with the next episode of Thrust and Thunder. First, we're going to take the brake backing plate, reinstall it back to the axle spindle assembly. I recommend having your hardware already placed through the flange. That way, when you place the backing plate up onto the axle, the hardware can be there to hold the backing plate in place. It keeps wanting to fall down onto the spindle itself. It can make a mark and leave damage, so you want to hold it in place while you tighten it down. Apply some blue thread locker in order to hold the hardware in place. Once tightened down, torque 55 to 80 foot-pounds. Here we'll take our new Dexter EasyFlex Equalizer and install it in the central hanger. We'll apply some blue thread locker once again. Torque the hardware 65 to 75 foot-pounds. It's time to reinstall the leaf spring to include our U-bolts. I have found that the best way to do this is while tightening those bolts, lift the whole axle assembly up into the hangers, and it keeps the leaf spring from rotating side to side while you tighten the hardware. Now, I typically find the hardest way to do something, so as you can see, I'm holding the leaf spring in place in the first installation, and of course the leaf spring is trying to rotate in my hand. If I would have just lifted it up into the hangers, it would have been a lot easier to tighten. To install the shackles, just simply lift the entire axle assembly with a floor jack, and you can move the axle back and forth just enough to slide the shackle into position. Slight adjustments needed to be made with the floor jack in order to get the other side of the leaf spring into position so that I could place the hardware. With the leaf spring hardware loosely placed, now it's time to begin the torquing process of the U-bolts. We'll do an initial torque of 60 foot-pounds in a star pattern, followed by a final torque of 90 to 120 foot-pounds in the same star pattern. With our U-bolts torqued, now it's time to place the hardware with the blue thread locker and place a final torque on our shackle hardware. We'll repeat this entire process on the other axle. In In my hand, I'm holding the inner bearing race seal, which is installed to hold the inner bearing in place to include all the grease within the wheel hub. The absolute best product I've seen is this AMSOIL polymer grease, which will hold up to the temperatures involved in these axles as they go down the road and experience all this abuse going down the highway at 70 miles an hour while weighing 17,000 pounds. Now this stuff makes a mess, so I highly suggest wearing some rubber gloves of some kind while you pack the bearings. Now we'll just drop the bearings in place, the inner bearings, and then after dropping the bearings in place, tap the inner race seal in with a rubber mallet and a piece of wood. Once firmly in place, just run your finger along the edge to ensure the race seal is flush with the wheel hub. Now it's time to reinstall the wheel hub itself onto the brake assembly. Try not to bruise the palm of your hand like I just did, pushing the wheel hub into place. Install the outer bearing, the retaining washer, and the retaining nut back onto the wheel hub. Now we want to fully seat the wheel hub, so we're going to torque the wheel hub retaining nut to 55 foot-pounds and then loosen it, pull it back off, and then tighten it 1/8 to a quarter turn to seat the wheel hub in place. Snap on the retaining clip and the wheel hub cannot back off from this point. Now it's time to grease all the fittings to include the wheel hub. This will take about a quarter tube of grease to refill the wheel hub from the old grease that we removed. We also have wet bolts installed on this Dexter Easy Flex setup, and so we're going to grease all those wet bolts as well. This will not take near as much grease. Right here you'll see I'm reattaching the electrical harnesses for the electric brakes. Here we have our finished product with all of the chassis saver, Eastwood rust converter, and Eastwood platinum rust encapsulator installed on all of our parts. Compare this to what it looked like before, and it's quite a big difference. Time to reinstall our wheel balancers, reinstall the wheels, and torque everything down. We're going to re-torque our wheel lugs to 120 to 140 foot-pounds. That's going to do it for this episode of Thrust and Thunder. On the next episode, we're going to get the rig outside, take it for a test drive, and then discuss a couple more things after the test drive. Please like and subscribe if you like the content that you're seeing, and we'll see you on the next one.